A very good evening to you, South African, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience with us tonight. It's good to have them on the program, and they'll be weighing in on this topic, the torching of trucks. At least 21 trucks have been burnt in various provinces. At this stage, 5 suspects arrested. The situation is fluid, right? Investigations continue. So, the arrests, more arrests are possible. But for what we know now, 5. The South African National Defence Force has been roped in. Their deployment is in support of the South African Police Service in 4 provinces. That's in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the Free State Province. And we also had reporting on taxi associations escorting trucks on the N4 toll road to ensure their safety in the wake of widespread attacks on trucks. Questions. What's the possible motive for burning of these trucks? What about law enforcement agencies? Do they have a grip on the situation? 21 trucks burnt. Why wasn't it stopped after the first lot was burnt? What does it say about our crime intelligence? Did they see this coming? We will discuss. Which leads us to our question of the week. And we ask you, what is the state of crime intelligence in South Africa as we also mark the 2nd anniversary of the July unrest? Let's walk and talk, get you more context. Would you say this is a coordinated attack on the road freight sector? Crime intelligence, crucial, right, in fighting organized crime. But are they fully capacitated to do all that they can do? Do they have all the resources that they need? What are your thoughts on this matter? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Perspective coming up. Now time for your roundup. All right, let's take a look at another one of the trending stories of the weekend. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says as much as they hate to see what former President Jacob Zuma is going through, they respect the decision of the courts. On Friday, the Constitutional Court dismissed Correctional Services application for leave to appeal against the Supreme Court of Appeal's decision on former President Jacob Zuma's medical parole. Now, the SCA had found that Zuma's release on medical parole was unlawful.
We respect the courts and their outcome. The moral perspective to it is that we empathize with President Zuma, and no one wants to see anyone at the age of 80 going to jail. But in this instance, the law is the law.
All right, I want to stay with the story, and we took to the streets of Johannesburg. Opinions remain divided. This is what you had to say with regards to this story.
Looking at his age and the so-called civil case, parole was in order. In theory, he served the parole, and the old guy is 81 years old. He must go home and have a rest. And that way, it calls down the political tensions.
He must go back to prison just like any other citizen. You know, if you've done wrong against the law, I think it's only fair that, you know, the law takes its course.
Look at what happened last time when you went back to prison. There were lootings all over the country. So I think if you go back to prison, things like that will come back again and the country will be in a bad state.
They must go back and review and make sure that they follow the needed protocols to make sure that what they are doing is the right decision.
We have more important issues that we need to deal with. We need to deal with the root cause of our problems in this country. And Zuma is not the root cause.
Any jurisdiction, whether you're a former president, whether you're just an ordinary person like me or you, if the court finds you guilty for any crime, no matter how many years you're supposed to go to jail, you should go to jail. And you should finish it off because that's the court of law.
Yep, that's our main topic tonight, crime intelligence, as well as the torching of trucks. I want to get you some context. As always, we'll turn to the magic wall, but I want to invite Velimseni Mtiane, SABC News researcher, onto the program. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time. It's good to have your better mind on this issue. Let's break it down for the viewers, right? With regards to the truck torchings by province. KwaZulu-Natal, 9 trucks in total. We know about Mpumalanga as well, also 9, and these are the various areas. And also Limpopo, right? 3 trucks in total there. We don't know motive as yet. What do we know at this stage?
Well, good evening to you, Blaine, and good evening to the viewers. What we actually understand right now is that there isn't a conclusive finding as to what is the root cause of this. But however, it is very interesting to look at the coincidence in terms of the month in which these happened. We remember in 2021 that the torching of trucks were the prelude to the chaos that unfolded. But it's also interesting that if we look at this year, it has just started and we do not know what's the root cause. But however, if we look at the economic impact in terms of what has just happened, it's the route N3 to KZN, it transports about 80% of goods that moves through the country, not only in South Africa, Blaine.
Huge reliance.
Huge reliance on the road. But also it calls into question into how did we end up having a lot of trucks moving through the road because of our railway and network that has just collapsed. And then that means if we look at the 80%, it means that if there is an interruption in terms of the supplies or in terms of the movement of trucks, the supplies in shops, the supplies in pharmacies will be affected, and the lives of people will be affected. Some may even lose their lives, and we might see the shortage of food in the shelves, which may drive the prices of food even higher. It doesn't help the current situation of inflation, because the lesser the goods that are demanded by many, the higher is the price of those goods. So, but now what if we look into the loss in terms of those who are operating, who are losing the trucks? Depending on the category of the truck and depending on the cargo that the truck has, we're looking into the range of about 3 million to about 10 million per truck. And if we look in terms of the 21 trucks that we have had that have been reported having been torched, that's close to about 210 million in losses that have been suffered by the business people in this country. This also affects the confidence in our economy. You know, Blaine, that South Africa is a getaway into Africa. So if those goods that are moved through the road and they get interrupted, and the investors and the business people might choose to move those goods into other African ports. And we know that Durban is moving a large cargo, not only for South Africa, but also for Southern Africa and the continent as a whole.
The next step now. These gentlemen, I put them up because they're part of the interministerial task team, right? There was this 9 or 11-point plan, action plan, that was drawn up a couple of years ago. What do we know about that? What do we know about implementation?
The problem that we have in South Africa, it's been said all over. Good in policies, good in programs, lacking implementation. And there's also this tendency of just showing off when the matter is just topical and then disappearing. So what we know, number one, there is different conversations that are going on. The government says that they have heard from the private sector that South Africa lacks a sufficient number of truck drivers. Hence, the operators are justifying to say that they needed to employ other people coming from other countries. But this task team, which has got 11-point plan, number one of the key issues is that they need to train South African drivers, but we have never heard of that program and how many truck drivers have been trained to close that gap. 2 is to make sure that all operators are registered and they are followed through, that they are complying with the rules that are there. In South Africa, we do have very good rules, but in terms of implementation and compliance, that's where the problem is caused. Many years ago, people used to say South Africa is a ticking time bomb. But if I may say to you that we have seen those bombs detonating, one followed by the other, and we do not know what's going to be the end game. So we need these political leaders to step up and show forth that whatever that they've been discussing on that 11-point plan, they give us the feedback, show us the progress, and then all those issues that people are complaining about, whatever is the cause of this, it's not good for the economy, it's not justifiable, but however, our leaders must lead.
These are some of the recent crime stats, and I wonder, in terms of the violence that we've seen of late, what part does the socioeconomic situation in the country add to these issues? These are some of the issues. Talk to us about what South Africa has experienced over the past couple of years.
We are labeled a violent nation. All our crimes are very violent. And that goes back to the very fiber of the society of how the democracy was achieved.
Yeah.
If you know the economic sabotage, that's what other parties, when they were struggling, they advocated and they practiced. But there has been very little understanding from the people on the ground to say, protect the economy. It gives jobs, protect the economy. It lifts our GDP and it gives growth, and it is for the benefit of everyone. So when you decide to go and look into the state of our country, the mass shootings, and what does it do to the investor confidence? If you look in terms of the illegal mining, government is failing to clamp it in a more effective way. And if you look into this banning and torching of drugs, it does affect the economy, and it calls into one question. Who are our leaders? What are they doing? Reacting or proactively leading the nation? The economy is suffering. We are sitting with about 12 million South Africans who are looking for a job. They are capable of working. But if these issues keep on going on, we'll have a problem of investors not coming into the country. We have never had a 3% growth, Blaine, economically in the past 10 years. And if you look in terms of our national development plan, we should be right now sitting at about 6%. And we are far from that when the economy is growing at 0.3%.
Yeah, important points you raise. Proactive or reactive? Consequences, real world consequences in terms of the ripple effect. We can't see these truck torchings in isolations. The ripple effect on the economy affects us all. Veli, thank you very much indeed for your time. Veli Ntiane is SABC News researcher. So he was talking about from tavern mass shootings, illegal mining-related crimes, to the 2021 July unrest and the latest, spate of truck attacks. The question is, are we safe? This montage, take a look at it. It lays bare the agonizing state of affairs of this country of late. Take a look.
Just on these mountains, there were a group of guys were throwing stones into the trucks. So as I was about to finish this road, they just started shooting us. Yes, then they told us to leave the trucks, give them cell phones and our wallets, and even threatened to kill us.
bona batho se ba cheka di trucka batho ma official trucka e be le kopile cause nna ekile truck number 3 a roadblock.
They blocked the road with burning tires. Then I saw them setting alight the first truck. My truck was the third on the line, and I couldn't make a U-turn.
They pulled me out of the truck, and already there I can hear gunshots. The only thing I thought of was running away. So I ran for my life. I couldn't do anything about it.
We're not safe on the road. Just because of this that is happening almost a week or something. When we saw people on the road, we are like getting frightened that maybe they can do something wrong to us.
Intelligence was available but not specific as to where and what. Hence we deployed. We had deployments already on our highways.
There are 12 people that have been identified, people of interest, by names, some of them by address, some of them by the cars they drive, including the main convener and coordinator of those people. As things stand, there is no evidence before us to suggest that the recent target on trucks are in any way related to link to the July insurrection.
On the evening of the 9th of July, protesters blockaded the N3 highway and torched at least 20 trucks and looted shops in the Mooi River area.
As you'll see, there's not even a police van or any supporter whatsoever. It's just us as a community standing together to make a difference.
This These illegal miners are accused of multiple crimes in these areas.
Into the weekend's fatal tavern shootings, at least 15 people were killed in a mass shooting at a tavern in Soweto. In KwaZulu-Natal, 4 people also died in Pietermaritzburg and 2 in Katlehong in similar circumstances.
It's a very serious security concern to us as a public, but equally it poses serious light to the work of our intelligence bodies as to whether are they able to do what they're supposed to do.
We will not allow those who intend to sabotage the economy of our country to have their way. We will go after them, and they will face the full might of the law.
All right, that gives you context in terms of the discussion that we're about to have. But at this point, I want to take our regular word on the street feature. As you know, this program gives you a voice. We took to the various areas in Johannesburg, and here's what people had to say with regards to our topic at hand.
They did is just like inhumane. You're taking bread from someone else's, not themselves, but like their family.
It's linked to the same kind of organized crime that we saw with the July 2021 unrest. And I think we need to get to the root of that ultimately. You know, I think the police have been quite effective in making arrests.
There have to be consequences for the people that are committing these acts. You know, I mean, this is sabotage to our economy. They're destroying jobs for people. And it has to be, the penalties have got to be really severe, so there's a deterrent.
Violence and taking away somebody else's livelihood is not going to solve the problem at all. It just increases the anger.
We do have people who have code 14 who can drive actually trucks. So now what's the point of South African companies employing people who are from other countries, whereas we do have people who can do the same job here in our country?
The fact that our rail systems aren't operating as efficiently as it could be. The N3 is a vital artery to our country, and yes, it is being held at ransom.
They should have a proper intelligence service which would pick this up before it starts happening, because this seems to go on all the time. It's the same with so many things in this country now. Violence is the answer to everything.
All right, as you heard from the gentleman, so many questions. Let's try to get you some answers. We've gathered a number of people here to do just that, with the sharp focus, obviously, on crime intelligence. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I want to know, we've got Lt-Gen Shadrack Sibiya, Deputy National Police Commissioner, Crime Detection, as well as Mary Phadi, Truckers Association of South Africa, as well as Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, Criminologist, Tshwane University of Technology. We also have online Gugu Sokhela from the All Truck Drivers Forum and Allied South Africa. They were going to join us, Google's join us soon. These are our digital audience. We'll get to their questions in a short while. Lieutenant General, first to you. We know at this stage, 5 arrested. Confirmed?
6.
6. So that's the latest. We've got 6 people arrested.
That's correct.
All right. Of those 12 people that General Becky Cele spoke about, persons of interest, are these 6 people part of that group?
I cannot confirm at this point in time that the names that we have now will include all 6 or some of them. Safe to say that the number has in fact increased, because upon arresting the others that we arrested, only to realize that they had a WhatsApp group. In the WhatsApp group, we could get all of them, or most of them. So the number shall have increased.
How many people are we talking about?
Well, there will be more than 20.
More than 20 people of interest or suspects at this stage?
Suspects.
More than 20 suspects?
Yes.
So more than 20 suspects at this stage, 6 arrested. When will they appear in court?
They should appear in court on Monday, tomorrow.
What do we understand in terms of possible motive at this stage?
Well, it's mostly labor-related. And others, of course, do take their chances, and then it will amount to those 30% people who say the extortions of 30% and say we want so much. Others will be, of course, because of the fact that it was not awarded a specific tender, and as a result, they embarked on this rampage.
Right. Mary Phadi, do you believe that the motive is labor-related with a few other issues, or where do you see the problem here?
We've seen the similar incidents 5 years ago, where drivers wanted to raise their grievances. And we still believe that the motive is about the establishment of the task team and the work that has been done thus far. But it is very clear that the way you look at it is the same way of burning trucks. It's totally not different. And when we look at the damage to the truck, you'll realize that they're interested only in making sure that companies are closed compared to hurting themselves. So there's no driver that has been killed this time. It is very clear that they are after companies.
Right. Lieutenant General, from the prima facie evidence that you have gathered so far, do you believe this is a well-coordinated attack on the road freight sector?
Yes, of course, it is well coordinated, because when we look at how the people were coordinated and also structured, some were actually dispatched to Limpopo, others to Mpumalanga, others to KZN itself.
Right.
So it is well structured.
I know Minister Cele ruled out at this stage, or when he spoke earlier this week, that there's no links to the 2021 July unrest. This is a fluid situation, investigations continuing. At this stage, can you definitively rule out that there's no link to the 2021 July unrest?
There is no link whatsoever at this point in time, because those that we've arrested is only drivers. And they do explain the reason why. The fact that foreigners are being employed at a much cheaper salary levels. So they feel that the foreigners are taking their jobs because they are not even able to negotiate higher salaries because the employers are too quick to employ foreigners. That's resulting into them not being able to get the salary they want.
Right. Prof, from your assessment, the extent of the frustration of drivers with regards to the employment of foreign nationals, the labor issues as well, where do you see the problem here?
Thank you. Where do we see the problem? The lawlessness, in their frustration. Why? What are the reasons that gave room for them to decide to do what they did? Because this is economic sabotage. Hence, writers will even dwell into the culture of violence. Is it because during their analysis, they realized they might be a step ahead of our intelligence, crime intelligence, because crimes of this nature could have been picked before or assessed before or anticipated, because intelligence should foresee crimes of this nature. But now look at the timing. Yes, it's coordinated, that we agree. And the manner in which it happened, drivers not harmed and so forth, we just see economic sabotage. Now, as we analyze further, in the eve of the 2021 unrest, the laxity of our justice system. You do this in South Africa, you think you can get away with it. So that is what we have picked from this, the decision to commit crime of that magnitude in South Africa. Is it a culture? And remember, from the 2021 unrest, what has been learned by fellow criminals is that you can do it, because for now, South Africans, we are still waiting to see what happens to most that have partaken in the 2021 unrest and the damages. So going forward, what can we anticipate as the country? This is a pattern, well coordinated, and going forward, this should now alert our state security that it is possible more than this, because we're also talking of what? Crime displacement. We are talking about addressing illegal immigrants, mining, and so forth, right? Look at what happened. Though it's not new, but it caught us by surprise. South Africa cannot go through this economic sabotage, looking into the socio-economic conditions.
And especially we were talking about the ripple effect. I'll talk to you about that in a while, Mary. But from what Prof is saying, Lieutenant General, I was reading part of the findings of the report of the expert panel to the July 2021 unrest, and it found that overall there was a failure of intelligence structures to anticipate and respond adequately. What would you say has been learned in the past 2 years?
Well, we have learned our lessons as the intelligence community. And I can tell you and assure South Africans that we do have a capable state. Our intelligence has been hard at work on the ground. This thing was in fact picked up somewhere around June. Somewhere where there was a meeting, and that all these plans were abandoned. But the intelligence have been on the ground, hard at work. That is why we were able to even arrest these people. All these arrests that we have made is as a result of the information that we received from the intelligence structures. Well, we do understand that we could have somewhere, but remember that we cannot also place each and every truck, assign an investigator or a policeman in each and every truck. But we were aware, we knew, and we deployed. Hence, you can see that in many other provinces, you do not have that, because they did send early warning systems, and roadblocks were held to an extent that all these other things, they could not happen in other provinces because they will receive early warning system from the intelligence structures.
So the question becomes, if the intelligence services knew about this back in June, why wasn't it stopped?
They abandoned the plan, and it stopped. And as a result of that, early warnings were sent to all the provinces, and all the provincial commissioners implemented to an extent that whatever that, it could have been worse, but because of the intelligence and states working with the state security, we were able to know about this information timelessly and also make sure that we deploy all the resources on the ground.
So you say they abandoned the plan. Are you talking about the group that is...
The group that was planning somewhere...
The 12 persons of interest initially?
Yes.
And of that group, do they make up the 6 that have been arrested?
You see, at this point in time, I cannot say with absolute certainty that some of the names will include the 6. Safe to say that the video that was circulating, he was the very first person to be picked up. The person, he was, of course, a person of interest as well, and he was picked up as well, the very first person that was arrested.
Sunday Times is reporting today that they have 2 voice notes. One of it was criticizing the person that was seen in those videos that has been doing its rounds on social media. Do police have possession of those voice notes?
They will.
Okay, and
we do have all the voice notes, we do have their cell phones, we have their communications, even voice notes.
Prof, when you hear about the crime intelligence knowing back in June that there was a plot afoot, but it was abandoned apparently, how does that sit with you? Could this have been prevented?
Yes, from our analysis, this could have been prevented. It sounds like an orchestrated, a beautiful answer, because we're looking for answers right now. From her analysis, from her explanation, they lost so much. This is an economic sabotage, right? Them abandoning is not equivalent to what South Africa has lost, how many jobs lost, right? So we also need further interrogation into this finding that they abandoned. So now, if they abandoned, what led to today's situation? We don't believe they abandoned. What led them to be a step ahead? Because with the millions lost, they were a step ahead. That we cannot run away from it. That one truck is too many. It's worth millions. So we can't be saying it could have been worse. We don't want anything of such nature to occur. We don't want abandonment. It's their finding. But we're saying what? It shouldn't be at all. You can't be saying 5 damaged, it's better than how they planned. We don't know how they planned. But we need them not to even try that. Right. Yes, so we should revert back to what? They should not even think about it in South Africa. Yeah.
Mary, talk to us about associations like yours and the working relationship with police structures, with crime intelligence, etc., in order to get ahead of the game, to stop these things from happening? What sort of relationship do you guys have?
Look, currently we meet on a monthly basis, with one of their representatives from SAPS, and there are more investigating companies that we give them as a list from the unions and the operators, where we say this is a company that is still employing foreign truck drivers, and they will go and investigate that matter. But they've never engaged us in terms of saying that, look, we've picked up something and we can avoid the possible damage or the possible incidents that might happen. All that I can say is that most of the operators, we have now went to the extent of hiring our own private security companies. Those are the people that could pick up immediately those incidents that had happened in KZN. As trucks were burning, we were getting information right away. And by the time it became breaking news, when something happened in Mpumalanga, already our guys were already on the ground. So we feel that SAPS is there when the challenge starts, and over time they tend to relax, because if you look at, I think about 2 months ago, where ATDF had written that media paper that was saying that they are going on a strike. That time we spoke to it as operators to say, you are not going to continue doing this. And, as an association, we are the first people that went to the media and say, the motive here is about the employment of the foreign truck drivers. But SAPS denied it. So maybe they feel that if they share that information, it could be of,
Lieutenant General, I mean, you would assume that these associations like Mary's will have, real information, on the ground information, eyes and ears, so to speak. Why are you not tapping into that information in order to prevent?
No, we do work with them, and also remember that intelligence is intelligence. They are not working like ordinary detectives. They are undercover mostly. But we do work, even with the criminals. Some of these criminals themselves, they do report, they do bring information. Remember, there's no honor among criminals. Some of them are reporting and bringing information. But it is also important for the country to take note that foreign trucks will be driven by foreign nationals. Whenever they stop a truck and they find that it is a foreigner driving it, the bottom line is it comes from, if a truck comes from Zimbabwe, will be driven by a Zimbabwean. So they must just understand that part. But all I can say is that our community, our intelligence community, both state security and crime intelligence, they are hard at work, they are deeply involved. They cover all the bases. They know what is going on in the country. We do have the real people that are behind this. We have names. It's just a matter of time. Everyone will be inside.
All right, we need to take a quick break. I hope, hopefully when we come back, we'll be in conversation with Gugu Sokhela from the All Truck Drivers Forum in Allied South Africa. Do you think, as the Lieutenant General was saying, that the intelligence services are ahead of the game? They have a grip, they have purchase on the situation? Let us know at It's Topical SABC. Quick break, more next. Welcome back. We're talking about the torching of trucks. New information emerging tonight on It's Topical. 20 people now suspects. We've got 6 people arrested. They'll be appearing in court soon. What is behind these truck torchings? What is the possible modus operandi, motive? We've got a number of guests here. We're going to break it down in a short while. But I want to bring in now Gugu Sokhela from the ATDF. Gugu is here with us. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time. You've seen possibly the reportings over the weekend in Sunday newspapers. There's been allegations that these truck attacks are being carried out by ATDF members. How would you respond to that? Google, I'm not sure if I'm the one that's can't hear you. If you can just unmute.
Can't hear you. If you can just unmute.
There we go.
There you go. Hi there, and the viewers at home. For now, I cannot exactly confirm whether the people that have been arrested are part of our members. For that, I'm not sure. But what we're suspecting as an organization is that maybe the torturing of these trucks is through the anger amongst South African drivers who are disgruntled and who are overlooked, and employers, they option to hire the foreign brothers as truck drivers, of which we all know in terms of the legislature in South Africa, the Labor Acts and all of that does not allow such, because the skill that the foreign brothers are working in is a skill that is a non-scarce skill. It's a skill that is supposed to be done by South Africans.
I want to refer to the Road Freight Interministerial Committee signed the 11-point action plan to deal with the blockages as well as the recruitment of foreign nationals last year. And among the actions, I'll just read it very briefly, enforcement of the visa requirements, need for consideration of all foreign driving licenses, and the review of the cross-border road transport legislation. As far as you know, Gugu, how much progress has been made in this regard?
I would say it's 0%. 0% has been made. There's from that 11-point plan that we agreed upon, I think 2 years back, nothing has ever been done on that.
Mary, let me bring you in. The Sunday Times reporting today, quoting the National Transport spokesperson, said that many points on the plan has been implemented, and they were talking about key of the implementation was the issue of traffic registered numbers of drivers once their legal status has been validated. Do you agree with Gugu in terms of the implementation of this 11-point plan?
I think the process is on a slow pace. One of the things with regard to the National Traffic Register is that they found that there's somebody that has been manipulating the system, and there were some flaws. So most of the people that are holding on the traffic register, you know, it's not something that is a true document, if I may put it that way. They've bought them, and therefore the progress that they are talking about is that they managed to do something, or they've managed to find information that can be able to assist the task team. Another thing is that with the issue of the visa requirement, it is labeled in Parliament. I think they are submitting those documents, so it is taking time. And on a monthly basis, as I said, we do have a statistics where there's a communication between the Department of Police with the Department of Home Affairs and Labour, where they expose companies that still hire those foreign truck drivers. There's nothing that has been done yet, but it is a process, and we've never missed any meetings on a monthly basis to date since last year, June. Yeah. That's how much committed the committee is.
Gugu, just quickly back to you. Given the state of play, we've got 20 suspects, 6 people arrested, 21 trucks torched. Where is the solution here?
I think the solution here is to do the simple thing. As we all know, that truck driving is not a scarce skill. So that's a skill that is supposed to be done by South Africans. So it's just a simple thing like that. We must look whether the skill that our foreign brothers are working in, is it the skill that they are allowed to work or not. And look at all the critical skills, because we believe that in a critical skill, there's a procedure that is followed, where one or the company will have something that is called a corporate visa that allows for a foreign person to work in that particular skill. But here, this is a non-scarce skill. This is a skill that is supposed to be reserved for South Africans. Where are South Africans supposed to work? Because,
let me bring in Lieutenant General. Out of the 21 trucks that were torched, how many were South African drivers? How many were foreign nationals? Do we know that?
Mostly is South Africans.
Mostly South Africans?
It's South Africans. I think 95%, 98% is South Africans. It's not foreign.
Then, Gugu, how do you read the situation if the 21 trucks that were torched, as far as the Lieutenant General is concerned, over 90% were South African drivers? How does the frustration with regards to foreign drivers fit into this calculus?
As I said, that we, as an organization, as a forum that stands for South African drivers, we have been interacting with drivers at large in South Africa, and it's something that we have had as an organization, as the leadership of the organization, that there is unhappiness in terms of companies still employing our foreign brothers, even if it is found on the roadblocks from the tax team. We've never had that maybe an employer, for an instant, we all know that the Swazi people do not possess a working permit, but they are here driving the very same trucks. And if they are caught in a roadblock, they are taken, right? But we've never had that maybe the employer has been charged or anything of the sort. So the simple thing here to be done, let's enforce what is on paper. Let's not just preach. Let's not make it be good on paper. Let's practice it, because when we formed this organization, we didn't say government must make new rules or new laws or new legislations. We formed the organization based on what we had seen written down by the very same government, and we said, but why there is no enforcement on such? If there can be some sort of enforcement, that what is written down, let it stay like that as it down, you know.
Mary, you agree?
You know, if we are saying that we should not review the current laws in the freight industry, we must remember that this industry has been deregulated since 1988. So it was more of a self-regulatory industry where, you know, anyone can impose, you know, as they wish. Hence, we are sitting with this problem. When foreign truck drivers would knock at the door of any employer, you know, they will hire them without really thinking of any consequences. And when the truck drivers raised their concern, we started to look at what went wrong. So those are the things that are clear. We need to take action and review.
Right.
You cannot ignore to review a document that was not talking to the sector. It is important that we need to find a solution to it, because if tomorrow we say that we don't want to employ a foreign truck drivers or the current foreign truck drivers that are employed, remember they are protected already by the Employment Act in South Africa. So if you fire them, you must go through the same process like you would do to any other employee that you've employed. So those are the challenges that we are still facing. Hence, we had to look at all the documents that were previously used in the road freight.
All right. Prof, I want to get your reading when we come back. We need to take a quick break. Hopefully, we will sort out our gremlins in the system regarding our digital audience. We're having a few issues technically, but hopefully when we come back, that will be sorted out. We're also hoping to speak to Philani Mkhize, as a labor analyst as well, to get his take on these matters. Quick break. More news next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. We're talking about truck torchings. We have 21 at least so far. We know that 6 people have been arrested. 20 suspects have been identified. That's the state of play. But what is the motive behind this? What's the possible modus operandi? We've assembled a panel of experts here to discuss these issues. I want to go to Professor Rakubu with regards to your understanding from what the frustrations on the ground, from what you heard from Gugu in terms of the employment of foreign nationals. Given what Lieutenant General has said about these 21 trucks, over 90%, the drivers were South African. How does that balance off with you, take into consideration crime intelligence?
It doesn't balance. If now their frustrations are about employment of the foreign nationals, and only to find that the drivers were South African, unless those companies that suffered are amongst the investigated ones that possibly hired or have unresolved issues with the truck drivers. So it's deeper than we thought, and they are deep-rooted frustration. So now, if you have angry or frustrated drivers on the road, even the communities at large, we are not safe because they are not attended to. Their issues are hanging. But the challenge comes with what? Decision to take such kinds of to participate in that or banning of trucks, because it's pure criminality. We should not shy away from that. Frustration, we understand, but the decision to do that, what gives them room to think they can do that and it's okay? It's not okay. No, the law must take its course. We understand. However, companies as well must now take responsibilities, because remember now, the law enforcement now has to come in and deal with issues beyond their control. Right. Even if we bring SAPS on board, they cannot solve employment issues. So companies will still hire foreign nationals. What are repercussions for that? If there are no repercussions, we're still going to find them wanting, because obviously offenders will be step ahead. And with this frustration, with South Africans knowing of the long-standing issues within the freight fraternity, we are going to have opportunistic criminals that are going to ban trucks. And it's going to be difficult for intelligence to even analyze who is involved and to what extent are they involved, because now we know there's frustration. We are hungry. As a truck passes by, we are going to ban it and take whatever we want to take, because their business is now out in the open for everybody to see. Now, who's vulnerable? Everyone. Every driver now with this information is vulnerable.
I have a deep understanding in terms of what is put out, Lieutenant General, to the public discourse or the public sphere in terms of intelligence. Having said that, though, is it deeper than we think it is? From what the Professor is saying, are we missing the point here?
Well, all I can say is that initially we were not sure about the motive. But since we've effected arrest, we are 100% sure of the motive. We do know now that it is labor related. And we do know now that South African truck drivers are not happy about the salary they're getting, and the fact that the employers are not willing to listen because they've got a better option of employing foreign nationals. So as a result, this whole thing happens is done by the South African drivers to an extent that they even go to an extent of themselves switching off the camera. So this thing is just the anger displayed by our South African drivers, but it's not as deep as many other things. It's just economic sabotage by these angry South African drivers.
Let's go to the digital audience. I want to bring in Sizwe and Zuza. Labor-related economic sabotage. Where do you see the issue here, Sizwe?
I also, greetings, yes. I also agree with the colleagues that this torching of trucks on our roads is due to labor disputes, grievances, South African unemployed drivers. There are lots of drivers who are qualified to drive the heavy load trucks. So due to unemployment, they are sitting in homes, and which causes grievances. They say, some of them even say, our foreign brothers take our jobs. Now we at home, we have no jobs because of our foreign brothers. So that is one of the major causes of torching of trucks on our roads.
Gugu, let me just bring you in here, looking at possibly the short-term solutions as well. Do you think there's a need for truck drivers to be trained and to be armed in order to protect themselves as well as their cargo? Is that a solution? Gugu? If you can unmute. Are we battling to hear Gugu? Let me throw it to you, Mary. with regards to, is that a plausible solution for truck drivers to be armed and trained in order to defend themselves and cargo?
No, we cannot go there. I think, this matter can be kept. And, it's just an unfortunate situation that it had to repeat itself. But, if you look at other border posts like your Libombo border post, there's a issue of security there. And if you then bring in allowing them to have firearms, they are going to conflict with, some of the drivers. We've already seen an incident on the social media where, the taxi industry shot one of the truck driver who was, trying to divert and passing the queue. So if we then promote that, whereas South Africa is sitting with so many people with illegal firearms, we are going to sit with a serious problem. This industry of the freight is not yet so bad. It's a matter that needs to be resolved, and we can be able to recover from the situation. So there is a hope for the freight industry.
Let's just talk about the near future. I've just got a minute, Lieutenant General. We'll wrap it up with you. From what you heard Mary saying, the possible solutions to this. We know that the South African National Defence Force is in support of the police services. How do you see this playing out in the next week or two?
If you can realize, for the past 2 days, if not 3 days, no trucks have been banned, because we have deployed adequately. We are on the ground. We have deployed. We've got roadblocks everywhere, and all the law enforcement agencies are working together. Our informers are out there, and they are working also deeper in the communities, including infiltrating the very same people that are involved. So we are quite comfortable that this thing won't happen. We are looking for them. We are not going to stop up until we arrest all of them.
All right. To my guests, thank you very much indeed. Time is never on our side. To our digital audience, I know we had some technical issues. Also, Gugu, Sokhela there. Thank you very much indeed. Value added indeed. Before we go, here's my take. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's a powerful statement. The consequences of every act are included in the act itself. George Orwell. Think about it. You destroy, you burn, you hurt the economy. Ultimately, the consequences of those acts have a way of coming full circle. Whether the person is caught or not, the punishment is seen as part of the act itself because of the ripple effect on the communities. South Africans do have a right to expect that the rule of law will prevail and that no one is above the law. So the cry from many is simple. Law enforcement, stay ahead of the game, so that calm and stability prevails in a country whose citizens are desperate for long-lasting peace, safety, and security. And that's my take. If you missed anything, be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube. Sports Live up next. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.